to the Blue Watch, your backstage pass to the lives of frontline officers and the leadership steering the way. I'm Chris Casto. Together, we'll navigate the challenges, hear the frontline stories, and leadership insights from those behind the badge. Today, we're sitting down with Waco Police Commander Jared Wallace, whose work helped lead his department into community policing. Now, actually, I said commander, but in reality, you're about to be an assistant chief. What I just found out.
That's right, Chris. I just found out uh, late last week that I'll be the next assistant chief for Waco PD.
That's
So I'm excited
awesome.
for the challenge that's coming up.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's a really big, moment in your career. Can you tell me a little bit about your career in law enforcement? Kind of like what led you to where you are today and what brought you into the policing world?
Sure. So I'm originally from Gatesville, Texas, which Gatesville is a small town about 40 miles west of Waco, and it's a prison town. So criminal justice was always part of my life, and I had the blessing of having the chief of police as my little league coach, and uh, like like RA sponsor in church as well. So he played a really big role in my life early on. He was such an amazing man and such a great role model to emulate that I became fascinated with policing, and uh, he continued to be part of my life as kind of a mentor and friend all the way through. I grew up with his sons, so there was a connection of us growing up together, and just that was really what caught my attention. Seeing how good of a man he was and what he meant in the community, what he did for our community, I really wanted to be part of that. So I started policing at Waco Police Department when I was 21 years old, and I've been here for 33 years now.
I've actually met you at a conference on professionalizing law enforcement and community engagement a couple weeks back. You were speaking there about how your department kind of took a step back from community policing because at the time, the sitting president actually had a ranch right there near Waco. So the resources got shifted because y'all had to focus more on security, terrorism, stuff like that, instead of community policing. How do you feel stepping back from community policing impacted your community and the relationship with the police department?
When 9/11 hit, having a sitting president in your backyard, especially one who he didn't spend much time in Camp David, he preferred to come back to Central Texas. So there were a lot of in and out visits. There were periods of times where he was bringing in prime ministers and presidents of other countries for conferences, and just relationship building on a global front was actually occurring in our backyard. Being a smaller agency at the time, we probably had about 225 officers in the police department. It was quite a challenge. We were surrounded by a lot of other smaller agencies, and so you know Waco PD, McLennan County Sheriff's Office, and Texas DPS, we really had to work together cohesively with Secret Service to try to support all the presidential movements, the presidential gatherings that he had with leaders of other countries, and there was no room, there was no margin left for anything other than traditional policing and trying to take care of our city in the actual way.
And I'm sure that drug y'all away from the community policing aspect of it as well.
It did. It pulled us away philosophically, uh, even though we had a lot of people that were really good at it and loved doing it, because there was no margin for time. Uh, that moved us away. But also, what it did was, for 8 years plus, we stopped promoting it and we stopped teaching it because of our staffing needs and our priorities at the time. So there was a bit of a carryover from that as well, because there wasn't any more community oriented policing taught and embraced by a new generation of officers. It was all really focused on what the whole country was focused on, like from 30,000 foot view, and it's focused on terrorism and trying to prioritize risk as
Mhm.
opposed to getting to know your community and being a part of your community and problem solving together.
Yeah, it's a loss of institutional knowledge is what it boils down to. But now you're leading Waco's neighborhood engagement team and you're trying to get back to the roots of that community policing model. Tell me a little bit about what your team has been doing.
Our city council's belief was we need to get back to what we were doing in the 90s. So they actually funded a unit with a commander, a sergeant, 5 neighborhood engagement team officers, and we built out a community services division by joining uh, previous previous programs that we had with community outreach and our problem solving unit to really build out a cohesive engagement team and philosophy at Waco PD. And it's just been wonders for our relationship with our community, our understanding of who we are, and it's also impacted our crime rate. Although we all know that we can't ever hang our hat on one solution as far as crime reduction, it's definitely part of the story here.
It's great that you had the support of city councils. Not a lot of departments don't have that. So, that's a really important key factor in making sure you have the right funding and the right people in place to make those moves happen. What were some of the major challenges that y'all faced when you did try to, move towards back to this community policing model, and how'd you overcome them?
The biggest challenge that we had was getting our officers to really buy in and be willing to engage in after a period of time between all the events pre and post George Floyd and COVID to really say, okay, we're going to engage with the community, we're going to connect with the community, we are going to allow ourselves to be vulnerable again and and open ourselves up as a police department to our community.
And that's the key right there. What you just said is we're going to allow ourselves to be vulnerable again. We're cops. We're not good at being vulnerable. Like that's just not in our core. So that's a hard mentality to embrace.
It certainly is, and it's not what we think of when we put on our body armor and our uniform. We really do change mentally as we prepare for our work, and vulnerability is not a part of it. In fact, it's on the complete 180 from that. None of us can do this job without loving people, and and so we really had to remind people of their why and help them to re-engage. And so we did some really unique things here in Waco to try to build those experiences. We actually held events at our police department and opened our police department up to the community. We had no idea what to expect, but we hosted this back to school bash in our parking lot and in some of the areas of the police department where it was publicly accessible and easy to manage. And we gave out over 1,000 backpacks, I believe, filled with school supplies. We had barbers and beauticians here to cut hair, and help our kiddos look great for their first day of school. We had all kinds of prizes that we gave away. We had DJ and dunk a cop booths and all kinds of just fun stuff to just create positive experiences between the police and the public. And it was a very healing moment, showing that as leaders, we're willing to be vulnerable and we're willing to be open and transparent and allow people into our police department, this area that is like a safe environment for our police family. It really, I think that makes a difference, and it changes the way people think about who we are and what we do.
I like how you incorporate things like bringing in somebody to cut hair. I mean, it's a simple thing. It's like, why didn't I think of that? That'd be a great thing just for kids getting ready for school. That they need clothes, they need school supplies. And that's not the only event that you guys hold that has some of these things. One of the things I remember you talking about was community opportunity events, which bring in a lot of other resources. Can you tell me a little bit more about those?
Absolutely, and I'm really proud of this because this was an idea from one of our neighborhood engagement officers, and he's one of those officers that like if you looked at him on paper, you would think, okay, he's that calloused veteran that was just kind of be a just a facts man type of officer. He's a police detective. He'd been a detective for probably 15 years. Been with the police department for close to 30. He had this idea that in our areas in our community where there isn't a lot of opportunity for our youth and young adults, that it we had to find a way to connect with them, and we need to do it. We need to come to them. We need to go where they are and not expect them to come to us or them to jump through any hoop. We need to make it as easy as possible for them. And he grew up in an environment like that here in Waco, and he understood what it felt like to be a young man living in a neighborhood where there's no grocery store, there's no pharmacy, there's no jobs, there's poverty, and what he did was he connected with businesses across the city, corporations, banks, and a lot of our social services and public health organizations to have a day where we bring in to their community in a place they go to on a daily basis and have job opportunities, college opportunities, tutoring, uh, health and wellness, life skills, mentoring, um, you name it, it's offered to them. I mean, it's absolutely incredible what he put together with sponsorships from banks and other organizations. We had over 100 booths from community organizations and job opportunities.
I can't even imagine the logistical challenge. Like you're talking about thousands of people, food, vendors, booths all over the place. I mean, what are some of the challenges that y'all had in creating this program or that he faced in putting all this together?
It goes back to that relational policing philosophy and how when you're able to connect with people on an individual basis and recognize through your problem solving skills resources that are available in your community that just aren't quite connected and aligned in a way that perhaps you can see and envision, um, that that is the engine that drives this, building out those relationships and connecting with organizations that do have those skills, that do want to volunteer in the community and see the from a 30,000-foot view. Okay, this is good, this has impact, this is sustainable. We want to be part of that.
What's your view on how this has helped build as far as trust between law enforcement and diverse populations in the Waco area? Because like you said, back in the last couple of years, post George Floyd, we've had a lot of negative emotions towards policing. How has this gone towards building that back, building that relationship?
As an organization, to recognize and acknowledge what's going on across our country with our police community relationships and the many things that have gone wrong over the years, but say that's okay. We're still here, and we're not shying away from you, and we're here. We're willing to be with you. We're going to go. Uh, ad- we're not going to ask about our problems. We want to know about yours, and we want to work with you to solve them. Uh, that that's really helped to build these relationships. There's always going to be some detractors and some people that um, are are really not that interested in trusting the police, and we understand that, but that's okay. We're going to focus on building that relationship and serving them, just like we do a citizen that supports us and wants to be part of us. There are certain things that you have to do to build that trust, and we're willing to be first to take those actions, such as being transparent and as actually hearing them, giving them voice, uh, to so that we can hear their concerns and then focus on their concerns first, not on ours.
You have to have the people that have those right personality traits that, There's the guys that go, they're the door kickers, the ones that, I'm going to do all those crazy calls, but you need the right personalities to go do this community engagement work.
You certainly do, and there's room for that in policing. Um, I've met a lot of leaders that they try to build the perfect police officer that's tactically sound, that talks to people well, that makes great decisions, that triages calls, and can really get into a deep investigation and break down, the most difficult of organized crime um, case. But it's really hard to build that out and build out a whole complete skill set like that. It's much easier to say, you know what, I've got somebody that man, they love getting dope, so they're going to go work on those high drug activity areas, or they're great at hunting people down that are wanted. We're going to create those opportunities. And same way with engagement, traffic enforcement, all these other things. Every piece is important.
I'd say instead of building that one singular officer that is like has all those different qualities, the way that I view it is more building that team. Like I try to find the officer for my shift that does this, the officer for my shift that does this, and then build up that team.
It's so important for as leaders for us to recognize that, because then we're connecting our officers um, why and what they're good at, what they're successful at, to our overall organizational goals, and that gives them a purpose and a drive and a motivation that lasts beyond all the stressors and traumas that they're going to experience as police officers. So
Mm.
the best leaders do that.
It's interesting you keep saying whys, and it reminds me of the Simon Sinek book, The Start with Why, where it's like you take that person's individual why, and then you connect it to their shift or their unit, and then you connect that to the ultimate goal of the department. What is your why? What type of guiding principles or experiences shaped you when you're going through the ranks of law enforcement?
Is trying to constantly be that that man, that officer, that police leader that I saw early on in my life as a community leader, um, and so that's what drives me. And so as I do that, I come to work every day, thankfully, still focused on being that and trying to be better at that. I've been blessed in my career that I've had great leaders around me, and I've had great partners around me, and I never hit that burnout wall that a lot of police officers experience. And the times that I felt it coming, I've been able to transfer to a different area, whether it's a different shift or a different side of town or a different division within the department, to re-kick my career. And and so um, that that helps me to remember my why and stay connected to it.
Yeah, I like how you talk a little bit about like some of the different mentors that you've come across in your career. And I kind of collect mentors. I try to find different people. That's part of this project with the Blue Watch is like me going out and trying to find the people that I can see that are innovating in this field. And one of the things I always like to ask them is to give me your favorite memory of policing, one where you get excited to tell it.
Oh, wow. Man, 33 years, there's a lot of memories.
You got to have a favorite, right?
I do. And it's when I realized, hey, I can do this job. I was a rookie police officer on the night shift in West Waco, and we had been getting just hammered with burglaries, just really, really bad. This was back in 1992. Um, and there was, um, we were doing all kinds of proactive things to try to catch the burglars, and had no idea who it was. Tag team and policing. I I jumped I jumped in a unmarked vehicle, and my beat partners took care of our district, and I went hunting. And here I am, and probably 5 months into my career, and I locate the vehicle. He was a professional burglar and had hit. They cleared over a thousand cases off of him here in Waco, but also in New Orleans and in Miami as well. And he was shipping everything uh, o- to South American country. And he literally, that was his job, was breaking into houses during the day, businesses at night. He had several storage facilities. He had safes that he had never even opened up. The only reason I say that that's like a proud moment is not because of the, like, oh my gosh, I, I did this great thing, but it was like, I can do this. This is like, it's not just about being good and um, you know, it's also about doing good work and making good cases, and I can do this. And that was my first recognition that on my own, I have this.
Talking about being back when you were a rookie, you were like 5 months out. If you could go back and give yourself any advice as a rookie officer, what would that be?
There's so much about this job that we don't get to know or understand in the first 20 seconds of a call. My advice to myself would be um, to understand that's not personal. That is environmental. And remember that there's a person there as well. Uh, and then secondly, don't take yourself so seriously. You know, um, there's a lot of great things about being a police officer, and we are an important piece to the safety and well-being of our community. But we're human beings, and we we live, we laugh, we have successes, we have failures, we make mistakes, and don't take yourself so seriously that you can't live through those and learn from them. You know,
Oh, absolutely. And looking ahead, Assistant Chief Jared Wallace, what do you hope to achieve in your role as a leader in the next iteration of your career?
well, there's a lot of things that are taking place in policing. There's a lot to address, but really the biggest thing for me is uh, to really focus on taking care of our officers well, both physically and emotionally, and professionally, so that they can go out and do the same thing for their community. We have to create um, a work environment that people are comfortable with, knowing all the traumas that they're going to experience, uh, and we don't need to be the problem as administrators, as leaders. We need to be part of the solution, creating that workspace where, uh, despite the fact that they're going to go out and take on the worst experiences that people ever have in their life, like, and go serve those people well and professionally, um, they're going to be able to come back again the next day and do it again. So we're responsible for that. We can never take that responsibility lightly. I'm really fascinated by the world of social work and policing and how that is kind of connecting. I don't think 10 years ago we saw this coming, but it's not just about like how we can take care of our people, our community better with all the behavioral health issues and mental health issues that we have in our community with homelessness and drugs and just the number of people living in our society that have serious mental illness, but it's also happening inside our departments as well, right? And how we take care of our officers, uh, and and just trying to work through um, the vicarious trauma that they have. So we put this armor on every day, and we come to work, and we separate ourselves emotionally from the job to do the job. But in the end, we're still individuals, we're still human beings, and we still live these experiences. Um, and when we go on death scenes, when we go on violent scenes, when we see victimization, we're victimized as well. Um, and when I started this career 33 years ago, man, I'd never admit that. I am I am the toughest of the tough. I can face down any challenge. I've been shot at. I had things happen um, in my career that leave scars, but I'm tough. I can get through it. That was kind of the mentality back then.
Mhm.
But we know what that causes, and we know there's a better way to teach our officers and take care of our officers, and so that's what's next for me is trying to focus on those things, and by doing that, that helps our officers take care of our community.
Thank you so much, Jared, for being here. I really do appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for joining us today on the Blue Watch. Please share and subscribe for more leadership insights from the front lines, and check out our website, thebluewatch.com. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.